What if I told you that just by parking your money somewhere for a year, you get a chance to win 1 million pesos? Hi everyone, it's Charm again from Ready to Adult Philippines, a channel about personal finance, entrepreneurship, and adulting how-tos. So we're at a temporary setup right now because our Wi-Fi is down at home. Anyway, this video will be talking about the Premyo Bonds Para sa Bayan 2. And if you're not familiar with that, Premyo Bond is basically a peso-denominated fixed income government security that pays out quarterly interest and carries rewards mechanics in which randomly selected people may win cash or non-cash rewards. Okay, so if you didn't understand any of that, then keep on watching because we will be tackling what a bond is and what type of bond Premyo Bond is. And we're going to be talking about what Premyo Bond is and what its potential returns are. We're going to be comparing it against government vehicles and similar bank products. And we're tackling who it's for, how you can invest, and my final thoughts on it. So if you're interested to know more, then keep on watching. Okay, so first, what is a bond? A bond is an investment vehicle wherein you can lend money either to the government or to corporations in exchange for interest. Okay, so it's called a bond because you are bonded for a certain amount of time, like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, or so on. So basically, if you're a bond investor and let's say you put 5,000 pesos to a bond issuer. A bond issuer, again, is either the government or a certain company, and they then pay back the 5,000 pesos plus the promised interest. So bonds usually have a fixed interest rate or sometimes also called coupon rates. And because the interest rate is mostly fixed or guaranteed, it doesn't necessarily fluctuate like how a fund or the stock market does. It's usually seen as a really low risk type of investment, thus also giving lower returns. So the Premyo Bond is a type of lottery bond wherein it's a government issued bond where randomly selected bonds earn a higher value than the rest of the bonds, and this is mostly done through lottery or prizes or raffles. And this is something that's very common in European countries like Belgium, France, the UK, Sweden, New Zealand, and many more. Okay, now let's talk about what Premyo Bond 2 is. And imagine this. You're betting 500 pesos for a chance to win 1 million pesos. But instead of that money going away when you lose, it still gets returned to you as 500 pesos plus a little interest. It sounds too good to be true, right? But that's essentially what Premyo Bond 2 is doing and offering to Filipinos. Premyo Bond 2 is issued by the government through the Bureau of Treasury. And it's Premyo Bond 2 because there's already previously a Premyo Bond 1 last year. The Premyo Bond 2 is trying to raise 3 billion pesos that they can then loan out to businesses here in the Philippines. And that's really gonna help our economy bounce back. They're offering each bond unit at 500 pesos by increments of 500 pesos. And every 500 peso entitles you to 1 bond unit or 1 raffle entry. And the maturity period for this is 1 year. So it's being offered up from November 11, 2020 to December 11, 2020. And the bonds will be issued by December 16, 2020. It will be settled by December 16. And the maturity period is 1 year. So that's until December 16, 2021. So the minimum investment is 500 pesos and there's no maximum investment. But if you invest more than 20,000 bond units or 10 million pesos, then you're no longer eligible for the raffle draw or prizes. So basically, if they think that you're rich enough that you have more than 10 million pesos, they're not going to allow you to join the raffle anymore and give you more money to be richer. Okay, so 20,000 units or 10 million pesos is the cap for you to be included in the cash reward system or the raffle. Okay, so now let's talk about the potential returns. So like I said before, even if you don't win the raffle, you still get a guaranteed small amount of return at 1.25% per annum. It's subject to 20% final tax, so it's similar to how they do it in banks, and the payout is quarterly. Okay, so now let's talk about the prizes. So every quarter, there are 20 winners of 50,000 pesos, and this is eligible for people who has invested 500 to 20,000 pesos only. So they have 1 to 40 electronic rewards number or raffle entries. So this is actually great because it gives people who has a smaller investment more chances to win than they would have if it was drawn just all together, diba? Okay, now let's talk about the cash rewards tier for the grand prize. So this is drawn at the end of the last quarter or towards the end of the 1 year. And the third cash tier is 50 people will win 20,000 pesos. The second cash tier is 10 people will win 100,000 pesos. And the first cash tier is 1 person is gonna win 1 million pesos. And this is with a possibility to earn special prizes like 3 million pesos, 6 million pesos, or 2 Toyota Innovas. Okay, so those are actually pretty good rewards that you can possibly win. But I acknowledge the fact that the chances of winning these prizes are actually slim. But that's kind of what you're doing also when you're gambling or when you're betting in the lottery. Okay, now let's try to compare it with other government-issued investments or products out there. So a lot of people have been comparing this to the ever-famous Pag-ibig MP2 or the SSS Peso Fund. And for me, they're not really comparable because, for example, with MP2, the maturity period is 5 years. And the money is being lent to consumer housing where this is lent to businesses. And the SSS Peso Fund, the maturity period for this or when you can get the 100% is when you're at age 60. So it's not really comparable. I would compare it more to time deposits, savings accounts, and even to the lottery or gambling. So the rates of the time deposits in the big commercial banks are at around 0.5% to 1.125%, and this depends on how much money you put in. And for the traditional bank accounts or savings accounts, the rates are at around 0.125% to just a little shy of 1%. So if you've been keeping money for years and years in time deposits or traditional savings accounts, I would actually say that the Premio Bond is a better vehicle for your money. And when it comes to the Lotto, I know that Lotos are only 20 pesos and this is 500 peso. But when you don't win in Lotos, that's bye-bye to your 20 pesos. Where in this, if you don't win, your money still gets returned to you plus a little growth. Okay, so this isn't actually something new. A lot of European countries, as I mentioned earlier, have this. For example, the UK Premium Bond, wherein almost 33% or 1/3 of their population has. And this is where instead of giving a higher interest to everyone, random people wins a large amount of money. Because psychologically, a slim chance of winning a large amount of money is more attractive to people than a short chance of earning a small, boring, consistent amount. Like in the case of Premio Bonds 2, instead of giving everyone the same 1.875% as annual interest, they chose to give us a lower interest of 1.25%, but they then used the excess of 0.625% to generate prizes for everyone. Like I said earlier, they're trying to raise 3 billion pesos. So 3 billion times 0.625%, that's 18,750,000 pesos that they then segregated for different prizes, which makes the bond more attractive than 1.875% per annum. Okay, now let's talk about who this is for. Like I always say, different investments fit different people and different risk profiles. So is this investment vehicle for you? So first, as I mentioned earlier, this is for people who love to gamble or who are mga sugarol. It's better for that money to be invested in this vehicle because at least they're not throwing away money because it will still be returned to them after 1 year. Next are for lotto bettors, which is kind of similar, but again, same point, at least they're not throwing away their money. The third is if you're someone who needs this money in 1 to 2 years time and you're just really looking for a place to park your money, you can put it in this bond and at least you have chances to win more because of the raffles or the prizes. And then lastly, it's for people who's looking for short-term savings or short-term investments. And I'm not saying this is the best investment vehicle out there, but if you want to diversify and you're looking for more places to put your money in, at least this is government guaranteed, your money is safe, and the interest is consistent. Plus, you get chances to win 1 million pesos or even 6 million pesos or 2 cars, right? So if you're interested to invest in the Premio Bonds too, here are some ways that you can invest. First is through participating banks that's over the counter, and the participating banks are DBP, Land Bank, China Bank, Metro Bank, or through First Metro Sec, PNB, and Union Bank. And you just have to fill up a form and pay your principal cost. So that's it. Another way is through the BTR online facility. You can log in to treasury.gov.ph and follow the steps there. It is going to be through online transfer from your bank. And then third is you can invest through bonds.ph. And bonds.ph is an app that you can use to invest in retail treasury bonds in the Philippines. And basically you can just download the app and create an account, go through the verification process, and you can see the Premio Bonds 2 there, and you can follow the steps on how you can invest in it. And lastly, you can invest through the OF Bank app or the Overseas Filipinos Banks app, and you need to have an account with OF Bank, and through there you can invest in the Premio Bonds too. Okay, so if you guys have any more questions, I will be linking down the link to the websites and the frequently asked questions PDF down below. And yeah, let's wrap this up and what I think about the Premio Bonds too. Before you guys comment down below like,
oh, but 1.25% is so small, better invest in like funds that yield 8 to 12%, blah blah blah.
Again, guys, I'm not saying that this investment vehicle is for everyone. Again, the lower risk, the lower your return is, and the higher risk, the higher the return is. So this investment vehicle is relatively safe, so it's low risk. So also, there's going to be a lower return. But if it means that you can diversify your portfolio and at the same time help the economy of our country bounce back because of the pandemic, then why not? If you have some extra cash lying around that you know you're not gonna use, it's in a traditional bank account that's earning less than 1.25%, then this could be for you. I see this as a vehicle that can increase the likelihood of Filipinos saving instead of buying the lottery, instead of gambling and unnecessary shopping. So if this is going to help you avoid those things where you're just really draining or throwing away money, then I'm all for it. And again, this is just for educational purposes only and should not be treated as investment advice. I don't really see it as an investment anyway. It feels like it's for savings or a safe lottery option. I will be linking everything you need to know about the Premio Bonds 2 below. And again, it's only until December 11, 2020. I know that adulting's already hard, but personal finance doesn't have to be. That's why I make these videos for you guys. This has been Charm from Ready to Adult Philippines, and I will see you in the next video.